They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I say the best revenge is so blisteringly hot it's practically molten. Scouring the depths of the internet, I've unearthed tales of retribution that go far beyond petty pranks or snarky notes. These are stories of calculated, life-shattering vengeance, schemes that dismantle reputations, topple empires, and leave scars that last a lifetime. So settle in with a bowl of popcorn, strap on your metaphorical hazmat suit, and prepare for a wild ride through some of the most explosive revenge stories ever told. Growing up in a small, conservative town, Sophie had always lived in the shadow of her older sister Claire. Claire was the golden child, charming, athletic, and the apple of their parents' eye. Sophie, quieter and more introspective, endured years of Claire's relentless torment, stolen diaries, cruel taunts about her appearance, and public humiliations at school. Their parents dismissed it as sibling rivalry, leaving Sophie to fend for herself. At 16, Sophie confided in Claire about her secret relationship with her girlfriend Emma. Claire, seizing the opportunity to cement her dominance, betrayed Sophie by outing her to their strict traditional parents. The fallout was brutal. Sophie was disowned, forced to leave home with nothing but a backpack and a broken heart. She moved in with a sympathetic aunt, rebuilding her life from scratch. Fast forward 15 years. Sophie and Emma are married, running a small bookstore and living a life filled with love and stability. One evening, a call from a distant cousin interrupts their quiet dinner. Sophie arrives at a hospital to find Claire, pale and weak, hooked to machines. Years of reckless partying have ravaged her liver, and she needs a transplant urgently. As Sophie's near-identical sibling, she's the ideal donor. Their parents, who haven't spoken to Sophie in years, plead with tear-streaked faces, acting as if the past never happened. Claire, barely able to speak, mumbles an apology, but Sophie sees the same manipulative glint in her eyes. Sophie takes a deep breath, her mind flashing back to the nights she cried herself to sleep, the years of rejection, and the pain of being erased from her family. In a voice steady as steel, she delivers her answer. No. The room freezes. She turns to her parents, recounting every ignored plea for help, every time they chose Claire over her. You didn't care about me then, she says, so don't ask for my help now. She walks out, the sound of her parents' sobs echoing behind her. Sophie returns to Emma, feeling lighter than she has in years. That burn? It's the kind that lingers for generations. Working at a rundown logistics company in 2009, Ethan was no stranger to workplace woes. The warehouse was a grim place, leaky ceilings, flickering lights, and a culture of petty theft. Lunch stealing was an epidemic. Employees labeled their food, left threatening notes, even spiked sandwiches with hot sauce. But the thieves were relentless. Ethan, a meticulous planner, packed gourmet lunches to brighten his grueling shifts, only to find them repeatedly swiped. One day, he overheard a coworker, Maria, joking about labeling her lunch biohazard, do not eat. A notorious thief, Tom, scoffed and ate it anyway, assuming it was a bluff. By midday, Tom was writhing on the floor, clutching his stomach as coworkers called for an ambulance. Maria, it turned out, had mixed a non-lethal but potent dose of ipecac syrup into her lasagna. Tom spent days recovering from severe nausea and dehydration, his reputation as the office glutton cemented. The incident sent shockwaves through the warehouse. Ethan, inspired, took it further. He crafted a decoy lunch, sandwiches laced with an odorless, tasteless laxative, and left it in the fridge with a taunting note, "Free food, enjoy." The next day, 2 thieves took the bait. By afternoon, the break room was a ghost town as they battled the consequences in the restroom. No one was caught, but the fridge became a no-touch zone. Ethan savored his untouched lunches from then on, a quiet smirk on his face. Some lessons are learned the hard way. and in the bathroom. Family gatherings can be a battlefield, especially for Lucas, the perennial punching bag of his cousin Victor. Victor, a flashy real estate agent with a perfect wife and kids, loved making Lucas the butt of every joke at their annual reunions. He'd mock Lucas's modest job, his single status, even his old car, while the family chuckled or looked away. Lucas gritted his teeth for years, but one rainy afternoon, he spotted Victor at a hotel bar, entwined with a woman who was definitely not his wife, Rachel. Lucas's heart raced. He pulled out his phone, capturing a series of damning photos. Victor and the woman kissing, laughing, and slipping into a hotel elevator. He saved the evidence, waiting for the perfect moment. At the next family reunion, as Victor launched into his usual haunts, Lucas stood up, his voice calm but firm. "Before you continue, Victor, let's share some memories." He tossed an envelope of printed photos onto the table. The family froze as Rachel snatched the photos, her face crumpling as she recognized Victor's betrayal. Screams filled the air, followed by tears and accusations. Victor's kids stared in disbelief, and his mother-in-law hurled a dinner roll at his head. Lucas was asked to leave, but he walked out with his head high. In the aftermath, Rachel divorced Victor, taking the house and half his assets. Victor's kids distanced themselves, and his real estate business tanked as word of his scandal spread. Lucas, meanwhile, started dating a kind co-worker and sent Victor a wedding invite, just to twist the knife. Revenge served family. As a single dad in a cramped apartment complex, Mia struggled to make ends meet. Her tiny, drafty unit was home, but a new neighbor, Greg, made life hell. Greg's prized muscle car, decked out with custom rims and a roaring engine, needed 15 minutes to warm up every morning, spewing thick, acrid exhaust straight into Mia's son's bedroom. The fumes gave her 5-year-old asthma attacks. But when Mia asked Greg to park elsewhere, he sneered, "Your kid's not my problem." Stuck with a lease and no funds to move, Mia plotted revenge. She bought a cheap bottle of orange juice, mixed in spoiled yogurt, fish guts from the market, and a scoop of dog waste from the complex's lawn. She let the concoction ferment in a sealed jar for a week, the stench so vile it made her gag. On a scorching summer night, she crept to Greg's car, which had a slightly open sunroof, and poured the fetid liquid inside, coating the leather seats and dashboard. By dawn, Greg's screams woke the complex. He stood beside his car, retching as he tried to clean the untraceable stench. Neighbors gathered, some laughing, others covering their noses. Greg tore out the seats, dumping them in a frenzy, but the smell clung. He sold the car at a loss and moved out weeks later. Mia's son slept peacefully from then on, and she smiled every time she passed the empty parking spot. That's how you drive revenge home. In 2007, fresh from college, Olivia joined a small graphic design firm, lured by promises of creative freedom. Instead, she was stuck doing grunt work, answering phones, filing, even mopping floors for a boss, Derek, who treated her like a servant. When tax season arrived, Derek asked her to file for an extension, citing a busy quarter. Weeks later, he dodged her questions, prompting Olivia to dig into the company's books. She discovered Derek had been withholding her taxes, but pocketing the money, never filing with the IRS. Olivia's blood boiled. She spent nights compiling evidence, pay stubs, bank records, and shady invoices. On her last day, she left a resignation letter on Derek's desk, then drove to the IRS office with a thick folder of proof. She also emailed Derek's top clients, warning them of the impending audit and suggesting they distance themselves. The IRS descended like vultures, uncovering years of tax fraud. Derek's firm collapsed under fines and lawsuits, his office reduced to a dusty shell. Olivia, now freelancing successfully, walked by the shuttered building with a grin. Never mess with someone who knows your books. Living in a snowy mountain town, Jake prided himself on his work ethic. One winter night, he spent 2 hours shoveling a parking spot for his sister, visiting from out of town. He marked it with a sign, hand cleared, Please respect. Within an hour, a flashy pickup truck stole the spot, the sign tossed in a snowbank. Jake's sister parked blocks away, trudging through the cold. Furious, Jake waited until midnight, then grabbed a can of industrial adhesive from his garage. Under cover of darkness, he coated the truck's tires and windshield wipers with a sticky glue, rendering them useless. By morning, the driver was cursing, scraping at the ruined wipers as his tires spun uselessly in the snow. The truck needed a tow, new tires, and a full wiper replacement, a pricey lesson. Jake's sister parked in the cleared spot for the rest of her visit, and no one dared steal it again. Revenge, colder than the blizzard itself. At 13, Liam was a budding entomologist, fascinated by his collection of carpenter ants. His peace was shattered by two neighborhood kids who pelted his house with gravel, laughing as they dodged his pleas to stop. When a stone cracked his bedroom window, Liam snapped. He carefully relocated his ant colony to the kids' favorite gravel pile, sprinkling sugar to keep the ants active. The next day, the kids returned, only to scream as ants swarmed their hands and legs. They fled, but Liam wasn't done. He filled a decoy backpack with old toys and a hidden vial of termites, leaving it in his yard. The kids stole it, unaware of the infestation they'd unleashed. Weeks later, their house was tented for a massive termite extermination, costing their parents thousands. The gravel attacks stopped, and Liam's ant farm thrived. Revenge, delivered with a bite. In a frigid Montana winter, Nora's quiet neighborhood was plagued by teens who loved throwing ice balls at houses, leaving dents and frozen messes. Sick of scrubbing her siding, Nora and her brother devised a plan. They filled buckets with water, adding food coloring for flair, and left them outside to freeze into solid ice discs. When the teens struck again, Nora and her brother hid on their porch, launching the frozen discs with slingshots. The teens yelped as the icy projectiles hit, bruising their egos in their arms. As they fled to their car, a stray disc shattered their rear windshield. The ice ball attack ceased, and Nora's house remained untouched. Sometimes, revenge is as sharp as ice. Which of these vengeance tales hit the hardest? Which would you have paid to see unfold in person? Share your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for watching.